The Film Basement is filmed in sunny West Hartford, Connecticut, in front of a live studio audience.
Welcome to the Filmmaker's Basement, where this week we've decided to reverse our roles. I'm Brandon.
I'm Andrew.
And we're going to be talking about some of the movies we saw this week, in addition to playing a little game show later on. And my intro was in reference to last week I saw a movie that had been out for God knows how long, not recent at all. And this week Andrew's done a very similar thing.
I was going to say, it's not really a reverse, because the movie you went and saw, I wouldn't really consider a blockbuster.
Mm.
And that's what I usually go watch.
I should say the roles are reversed here from last week.
Yeah, from last week.
That's a better way of putting it.
I definitely watched an older, it's only a year old.
That's, not bad, even still. But, moving on, we're going to get to the movie I saw this week, which was Cyrano. So, Game of Thrones meets Les Miserables, as Tyrion Lannister, Peter Dinklage, is thrust into the role of the pivotal Cyrano de Bergerac, a successful poet/soldier who is loved by most but not the woman he desires. When she falls in love with a new recruit in Cyrano's regiment, she enlists his aid to woo this man through the letters they exchange. However, the new man cannot write eloquently enough for Roxanne, and it's up to Cyrano to use his prose to woo the woman of his dreams for another man. And if it sounds complicated, it kind of is, but that's kind of part of the fun of the movie. So I went into this thinking it was going to be a very, boring historical drama, with some musical numbers going in, kind of similar to Les Miserables. But I was actually really surprised. It was very witty, fast-paced, and, the musical numbers were genuinely fun. That does come with the caveat that I don't really remember them that much after seeing it, but in the time that I watched it, I remember having a really, they were fun to play with and work into. What I will say is I think the best part of this movie was the cast. Like I mentioned in my opening, Peter Dinklage plays the lead role, Cyrano de Bergerac, who's this poet soldier dude who is loved by a ton of people, but is considered ugly, at least in terms of the original play. That's why people don't really like him, why he's kind of in the role of his life that he's in, is that he's supposed to be ugly, but that kind of translates to the film as him being short and being different from everyone else, which kind of doesn't work, because Peter Dinklage isn't the worst looking man, and he's also incredibly charismatic, which I guess helps his character, but I'll digress. I would say he was probably the best part of this entire movie. If you like Tyrion from Game of Thrones, it feels very similar to him again. The character of Cyrano is very witty, he's very sarcastic, very eloquent, extremely charismatic. Very fun to watch on screen as he interacts with the people around him. Especially through his dialogue, which I'll get into a little bit later, because there's a specific reason why I like that so much. Everyone, and in addition to him, the rest of the cast is also pretty amazing. His kind of, I guess, the person playing opposite to him, his love interest, essentially, Roxanne, she was played by Haley Bennett, who was an actress I hadn't heard of or seen in anything before this, and I'm genuinely surprised, because she's really good, really, really good. She had a really good singing voice, which was great for the role, whatever. But she was also very commanding when she was on screen. She knew how to command the entire presence. Even when someone like Peter Dinklage was in the scene as well, she really made herself feel like the centerpiece of the entire film, which is kind of the point. But it was really surprising from someone I hadn't seen on screen at all before this. Very good at playing this character who is essentially self-absorbed yet witty and also very passionate, and also speaks very eloquently. Her and Peter Dinklage have a lot of good scenes together where they're both essentially almost reciting poetry at each other. It was incredibly impressive. I also like to point out, it was nice to see someone who was kind of non-traditionally beautiful. I think usually when we see a lot of movies like this, the female lead is usually falls into a similar archetype of the skinny blonde woman. But she was more she was a bustier woman. She was a larger woman, which was really nice to see. Also, there were a lot of really good, smaller side characters. Specifically, the one that pops out to me is Ben Mendelsohn as De Guiche. I don't know how to say that one. He's kind of this governor-type role who Roxanne is supposed to marry, but she doesn't want to for a variety of reasons. He doesn't come up much throughout the film. He isn't, a main focus. But he has incredibly good villain energy in this, specifically referencing his musical number that he has later on. He almost felt like a Disney villain, like you know how every Disney villain has like their song. This felt very similar to that, which was really cool for a character who hadn't been like all that involved in the movie up until that point. Like he commanded the screen there. So there were again a ton of good performances like this. The man who Roxanne falls in love with, he was excellent in his role of playing this man who was like essentially thrust into a position he had no way of actually succeeding in. He is not an eloquent man. He is very like, I was born on the streets kind of dude. Like, I don't know how to speak eloquently. I don't know how to win a woman over and use all these fancy words. I'm very much so like, I say what I want to say, which was again perfect for this kind of movie. And then going into the script, again, this is another part that I really liked is how they kind of talked at each other. And it's what made the movie really fun for me. It, like I said earlier, it's almost like they're reciting poetry at each other with how they talk, because they're very eloquent in their speech. I'd almost even say, to a point, it's almost like a very poetic rap. And it's hard. It's hard to explain that part. It's very musical yet fast paced and like. It's just, you know it when you. I knew it when I saw it. And I thought it was very impressive, and it was very fun to watch and listen to these characters like move at this pace. So I loved all that about the movie. I will say, besides that, the movie is a little bit lacking. The songs are definitely fun, like I said, but they are a little forgettable. Like I can't really remember a ton of them right now. And I will also say the story can be a little out there at times, like. In that I'm not, like, I had trouble kind of following where it was going, and there were a lot of time skips, and you're just sitting there like, it's like once, like, a lot of the movie is set in, like, one city doing the love triangle stuff, and then they leave, and then there's a time skip, and it's like, what's happening, huh? So it wasn't as strong. However, even with all of that said, I would say it's definitely worth a watch just for the casting alone, because they really like hold this movie together, and I was genuinely impressed by everyone's performances in this movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How long was it?
I'm trying to remember. I think it was about an hour 50. It's one of those movies that again doesn't really feel as long as its runtime is. It felt much shorter than that, which is good because.
Probably without credits. It says 2 hours 3. So without credits, probably an hour 50. Yeah.
Probably about an hour 50. And again, didn't really feel it. It felt really fast paced and very. It had my attention the entire time, which is again the best thing you can hope for in a movie like this. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it.
Interesting. It was nominated for an Oscar. I don't know what Oscar because.
Yeah, I think it was best costuming. I was looking at the IMDb for it earlier, and it had a couple of awards listed.
And Haley Bennett, she's been in actually a lot of stuff.
She has, but I haven't seen her in any of that stuff.
She played Molly Hartley in The Haunting of Molly Hartley. That was like her breakout role kind of thing. Mm-hmm. She was in The Magnificent Seven, which I
think would be her.
Was the Netflix?
Was that the Adam Sandler one?
No, that's the Netflix movie. The Magnificent Seven was the Chris Pratt, Denzel Washington, wasn't it?
I think it was. Might have been.
I don't know what the Adam Sandler one was. That one was the comedy.
Yeah.
Hardcore Henry. I think she might have played the love interest.
I think
in
that was
Henry.
that was the one. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, I did remember her from that one because I was looking at that earlier. But yeah, she was fantastic in this movie. Which was again very surprising to me because I only really I do remember her from Hardcore Henry, but she didn't stand out to me in that movie. But then again, that movie wasn't really about the performances; it was more about the action itself.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, not really much of anything else. Apparently, she's gonna be in the Borderlands movie, which I didn't know they were making. That's gonna be interesting.
That would be
another video game movie that we can all be disappointed by. Well, now since I'm trying to load IMDb again, because for some reason it keeps giving me bad gateways.
Oof.
I went and saw. Well, I didn't go and see. I sat on my couch and I watched a movie that came out in 2021. It's called Nobody. It stars Bob Odenkirk, who, if you're not familiar with Bob Odenkirk, he plays Saul in Better Call Saul and in Breaking Bad. This movie follows a docile man, a family man, who slowly reveals his true character after his house gets burgled by two petty thieves, which coincidentally leads him into a bloody war with a Russian crime boss. That description is kind of misleading because the two people that burgled his house have nothing to do with the Russian crime boss. So this movie's kind of weird. And it's not really all over the place, but it does jump around a lot. And it's kind of funny at places too, because so his house gets broken into and he's got a golf club in his hands, and like his son is helping him out, and the son tackles one of the burglars, and the female burglar like turns around to look at the son and turns his back on I'm just going to call him Nobody because that's what he keeps referring himself as. So she turns his back on Nobody. That's really strange to say that now. Like, that's really strange to say that.
It's like something straight out of the Odyssey.
Yeah. She turns his back on no one.
Nobody.
No. So she turns his back on him, and he's about to hit her with the club, and he doesn't. And he just tells his son to get off the guy, and then they leave. The burglars leave. And, you know, there's some, like, family tension because his son's, like, really mad that he didn't, like, take out one of the burglars. And there's this weird thing going on with him and his wife where they're sleeping in the same bed, but they have, like, a wall of pillows that separate each other. So, like, that's not really addressed as to why that's happening. They just at one point kind of say, you know, he says we haven't had sex in like months, we haven't made love in years, haven't kissed in a while.
Any other romantic tension between them throughout the movie?
Weird. like they play nice with each other when they're in front of their kids, because obviously they don't want their kids to know that something's happening. But like but
weird then.
Yeah, so like, and he's supposed to be this, like, you find out that he's like this special agent, or they call him I can't even remember what they called him. They call are they an accountant or not, some A word. Like he said he was in the military. He said he was in the military, and he was like an advocate or an accountant or an advisor, something like that. And so you think that his military job isn't that important, but then you find out that like his military job makes him like a badass. So he's like not worried about anything like that those burglars stole. And then his daughter is like looking for something, and he goes, "What are you looking for?" And she's like, "My kitty cat bracelet. I can't find it." And she's like, "Well, where did you leave it last?" And she left it in the bowl that the burglars were stealing out of. And that like makes him snap. So like, because he thinks that these burglars stole his daughter's kitty cat bracelet, he snaps, and he like goes on this, he goes and tries to find the burglars, and he finds out where they live and just starts beating the hell out of them with their gun, like the guy with the gun, and he's screaming at him, "Give me the effing kitty cat bracelet." Like,
is this supposed to be a comedy too? It kind of is. It feels like a comedy setup.
It kind of is. It's not like there's not really like laughs, I would say. Like there's no like jokes, but like I was laughing. I was just like, this guy's like, he's snapped because of a kitty cat bracelet.
This seems like the kind of joke I'd come up with. Like,
and then you don't see them ever again. Like, that's it. With the burglars, he like leaves. Like, he sees that they have a baby that is on oxygen, and then he leaves, and you never see them again. And so he's riding the bus home, and a group of Russians get into an accident next to the bus, and then they get on the bus, and then he like wants to take out all this aggression, so he starts beating the hell out of all these Russian dudes. Which God. Then starts this war with this Russian crime boss, because one of them was his brother. And you're like, okay, whatever.
So you're sitting there laughing your ass off right now.
Yeah, I'm just like, what is going on? And the action is pretty cool. Like, he's a pretty good fighter. And there are points of the movie where I was laughing because, like, he got kidnapped. Like, this Russian mob came to his house and, like, he put his family in the basement, and he started going around the house with, like, knickknacks, like a knife, and, like, he would grab something else and just start beating the hell out of all these Russian guys. And then he gets kidnapped, and after he gets kidnapped, he manages to escape his handcuffs and crashes the car that they're in. And as he's crawling out of the car, he's sitting next to one of the guys who's, like, basically cut in half. And he starts explaining, like, he starts doing his, like, little, like monologue of, like, who he is and, like, what he did for the military. And in the middle of that, he looks down and the guy's dead. So, like, he's just talking to a dead guy, and he's just like, shit. Like, like, you don't really know, like, what he does. But yeah, it's a weird movie. I will say some of the cinematography of the fight scenes is pretty cool, because there was one scene near the end. He gets his family, I guess, is, like, his brother, or his adopted brother, and his father were also in the same line of work. So, like, near the end of the movie, the three of them, like, are teaming up and fighting the rest of this Russian mob. And then, so you get to this end scene, and there's one point where his half brother is all the way across the room, and he's about to get, like, snuck up on, and he throws him a gun, and the camera is, like, planted on the gun. So, like, the camera is rotating in the air, like, attached to the gun. And then you see, you know, his half brother come into view, and, like, he grabs it. And I was like, that is actually a really cool shot. Like, you're getting the perspective of the gun flying through the air instead of just watching it fly through the air. It was pretty good, though. I will say it's only 90 minutes. So you could definitely just kind of put it on in the background or something and watch it. I would. Like, it's not that bad. It's very John Wick-esque, without Keanu Reeves, obviously. So, but that's his whole thing, is he's a nobody. Like, every time they say, "Who are you?" He's like, oh, "I'm nobody," and, like, that was in his military file. Like, his project name was Nobody, because he would go in and, like, just, like, murder people. And for, like, if he's like, if we couldn't decide what to do, or if they didn't decide to do the right thing, they would send me in. And he, you know, like, that's what he did. He just goes and murders everybody. And Christopher Lloyd plays his father. And watching Christopher Lloyd, or Doc Brown, for any of you who don't know who Christopher Lloyd is, from Back to the Future, watching him as an old man just shotgunning people in the face and in the stomach was awesome. But it was, you know, it was good. I enjoyed it. It was like 90 minutes. It was just something I watched today, and
plus it's free on HBO Max. So
it's free with an HBO Max subscription. So hashtag ad.
Hashtag ad.
Go watch it on HBO Max today.
Okay, well,
but it got a 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb. So, you know, it's not terrible.
Not terrible. And it's funny because I didn't remember this movie initially, but the second I looked up the poster for this, and I mentioned this before with you, I knew exactly what it was, because I'd been seeing advertisements for this film all over the place. And it, like you said, it just kind of looked like a John Wick knockoff, so I didn't think anything of it. But I do kind of like that it is kind of funny. That's like, because the premise does seem kind of ridiculous. So I like that. Hopefully that was intentional and they really just win it on that. Okay. And speaking of good intentions, let's move on to everyone's favorite game show, Pilot Wings. Okay, and for those who don't know, Pilot Wings is a game show where I pitch Andrew 3 show log lines for pilots that would have gotten made. 2 of them are real, 1 of them is fake, and it's up to Andrew to guess which one is the fake one. So, starting off with number 1. Ex-Marine Daniel Hardwood would never have considered himself a family man. However, after an accident leaves his niece Sasha without any other family, he decides to do right by her and take her in. Little does he know how unprepared he is for the modern trials and tribulations of raising a 13-year-old girl. A beautiful but unhappily married female photographer begins a torrid affair with a lawyer for a powerful family. When he turns out to be defending a murder suspect who is being prosecuted by her husband, the relationship and the case begin a spiraling series of betrayals with cataclysmic results for everyone involved. And 3. When Terry Gannon, a recently divorced single mother, temporarily moves in with her estranged father, a beer-swilling former baseball player, she reluctantly starts coaching her son's underdog Little League team and is drawn back into the world of sports she vowed to leave behind. So, Andrew, which one do you think is the fake one?
Okay. Something immediately jumped out at me, which makes me think it's fake. Going over them, the beautiful and unhappy married couple, married female photographer, turns out to be defending a murder suspect who's prosecuted by her husband. That just sounds way too bizarre, but maybe. That's so weird. That's like,
yeah, that is a pretty unusual concept.
And then the recently divorced single mother temporarily moves in with her estranged father. This one's all about family. I can see. Cue the Vin Diesel memes. These 3 are all about family. That last one with the Little League team, like, they all sound fake. Like, that last one sounds like a comedy, but it's not a comedy because of the way that it's described. You know, an estranged father who's a beer-swilling former baseball player. Definitely sounds there's some drama in there. That second one definitely is a weird subject. Like, her husband is a prosecutor, and she's having an affair with a defense attorney, and they're working the same case. It doesn't sound like you're going to get many episodes out of that. And then the one that threw me off is the first one. And I want to tell you why. It's because you said it was an ex-Marine, Daniel Hardwood, wouldn't never have considered himself a family man. And wouldn't never is a double negative. So that means that he would have considered himself a family man. And either that's a mistake by the people who made the show, or you might have put in a double negative on accident. So I'm gonna go with my gut and say number 1, because that double negative is throwing me off, and I don't feel like people who write synopsises would do that.
Okay. I'm so annoyed. Yeah, it was the first one. I edited that one a bunch, and I must have forgotten to take that out.
Yeah.
That's annoying, too, because I thought that would be my best one.
I heard you say, wouldn't never have considered, and I was like, what?
Yeah, I changed that one around a lot.
If it was not a double negative, if it just said would never have considered him a family man, I probably would have went with the second one, because that one just sounds so weird.
Yeah, so apparently that one is called Betrayal, and it got a single season. And surprise, surprise, it didn't get another season after that.
Well, I mean, all of the shows that we do on here don't get
That's
multiple
not true.
seasons.
That's not true. There have been a couple that actually have gotten multiple seasons. But usually they're bad and they don't. And the second one's called Back in the Game, and it also only got a single season. Yeah, I'm really annoyed. I thought I had a good one this week.
You did. That was a good one. No, yeah, the double negative like threw me off like immediately. Like, and being that was the first one in the first sentence, I was like, that has to be a mistake. Like, he had to have made a mistake in writing it.
Yep. And that's why you should always proofread, kids. All right, Andrew. Well, hopefully next week I won't make such an obvious glaring mistake. We'll have a better one to go with. And with that said, let's move on to some of the movies that are coming out in the following week. And thankfully, it being the middle of March, we are getting more movies coming out. Specifically, there's a couple that have stuck out to me. One of which I've talked about before, The Outfit. That's the one with that tailor who has to outwit a group of mobsters, which I thought sounded like a fun concept. I just like the idea. I think there's a lot you can do with that. Like, you have one night you have to escape the mafia. How do you do it? So I thought that could be kind of fun. And then the other one, which I've seen a lot of trailers for, it's an A24 movie that seems to be getting some
X?
hype around it. X, yes. I've kind of been seeing people compare it to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. In 1979, a group of young filmmakers set out to make an adult film in rural Texas. But when their reclusive, elderly hosts catch them in the act, the cast find themselves fighting for their lives. Looks
every time I put YouTube on, that's the ad that plays.
I've been seeing it on TikTok a lot. And it pops up everywhere.
And they've recently made an ad for it that's only 15 seconds, and I have to sit through it because it doesn't let you skip the ad.
Yeah.
Whereas before it wasn't. It was a longer clip, so like you could skip it.
Yeah.
But the first time I watched it all the way through, and I was like, huh, that seems interesting.
Yeah.
Like psycho family kind of vibe going. I will say, if for some reason there are any kids watching, don't go see this movie, because they're like in the rating. There's like 10 lines of why it's rated R. Like, it's crazy how like, yeah, let's see.
Which is unusual for an A24 movie, because they do horror, but they don't usually do like really gory horror.
Strong bloody violence and gore, strong sexual content, graphic nudity, drug use, and language.
Yeah.
And it's definitely one of those movies.
Yeah.
Because it's based around like a pornographic company, isn't it? Like they're doing
they're shooting a porno.
They're shooting a porno in some like random farm.
Middle of nowhere, family finds them doing it, and bada boom, bada bing, chaos begins. So I mean, it sounds like a good concept. I don't know if I'll see it.
Oh dang!
It might be a little too gory for me. Kid who? Oh, singer. Gotcha.
The singer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but besides that, I don't really have too much else for this week.
No,
those are my two.
I don't know what I'm gonna see for next week. There's like nothing until April. Which it's Morbius, right? That's the one you're. Yeah. Well, April there's a movie every week.
And Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah. And there's another
thing.
And
Cow! I forgot Cow's coming out.
Cow. Yeah. That's the next week. So Morbius is April 1st, and then Sonic, Ambulance, and then Cow on the 8th. Fantastic Beasts and Father Stew, which I've seen clips for that Father Stew, like the trailers for it. It actually looks good. I might go see it.
Interesting. Yeah, April seems like it's got a lot going on.
And then you've got
gonna
that
be exciting.
Nick Cage movie at the end of April.
Looking forward to that, and The Northman.
Yep.
Which I don't know if you've been seeing trailers for, but that also looks really good. So exciting. But yeah, April looks very exciting, and I cannot wait for us to get into it. Okay. Well, I think that takes us to the end of this episode. Andrew, do you have anything you want to plug this week?
Yeah, I think we're finally going to do Sports and Nonsense again.
Oh my god, after 2 months.
I know. So there was a point in time me and Rich were talking last week, and he's like, "Why haven't we done the podcast?" And I was like, "Well, you never texted me about it." And I thought you were busy. And he's like, "I thought you were mad at me." And I was like, "Why would I be mad at you?" Like, and he's like, "I don't know. That's just how my brain works." And I'm like, "No." I was like, "We'll do it next week." And he's like, "Okay, good." So.
So hopefully that will be returning.
Hopefully this weekend we'll have it returning, depending on what I'm doing, because there's family in town this week. So
that does complicate things. As for me, I would plug Psycho Gorman again. Go watch Psycho Gorman. I think about that movie every day. It's so fantastic. Please watch it. But yeah, besides that, thank you guys for listening to the show. I'm Brandon.
Andrew.
And it's been a pleasure having you all on. See you next week.